This morning I'm going to do something a little different. I really had a different message that I kind of was thinking of all week long, and it just, something didn't seem right about it. I don't know. So I just kept thinking of something in it, so it was going back to my notes. I don't know what's wrong with this. Hello? Okay. We'll turn it off. But anyway, so I got to looking back through some of my old sermons, and I run across this one, and I really felt led to share this one once again. Some of you probably heard it. I tried to change it up a little bit so it'd be more interesting. But I'm going to start off reading out of Hebrews 2, 1 through 4. I think I have 1 and 2 up there, I think. All right. Father, we just thank you once again for the opportunity to come before your throne. We just thank you for the blessing of the day, God. We just pray that you just anoint thy word, Father, and I pray that you open our ears that we may hear, Father, our eyes that we may see, our heart that we may obtain, and our voice that we may share. In Jesus' holy name. Amen. All right. So, Hebrews chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. It says, "Therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should let them slip. For if the words spoken by angels as steadfast in every transgression and every disobedience received a just competence of reward, how shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard him, God also bearing them witness, both with signs and wonders, and with diverse miracles and gifts of the Holy Ghost, according to his own will." Amen.
Amen.
All righty. Like I said, I want to kind of share something that I'm hoping I can get this out, because when we read this, we think our salvation, a lot of people teach us is getting, we kind of get off track, or we get adrift, I guess we could say. I want us to look at something a little different. Hebrews, we know, was a letter written to encouragement to the Jews, because they just changed over to Christianity, as we call it. To them, it was very strange, and because a lot of the stuff that Christ did and a lot of stuff that the apostles taught was totally against a lot of their beliefs. I mean, it was hard for them to see it, and because a lot of them, in a sense, thought that Christ was going to come and take over the government, and they were going to have this great Israel and all this stuff, and he came and got crucified, so it was really kind of hard for them. So these, basically, Hebrews was written to them, the Jews that were Jewish that were transferred over to Christianity. And so most do not know who wrote Hebrews. They still don't know who wrote Hebrews. It could have been Luke, Barnabas, Clemente, Paul. Most agree that it was either Paul or Barnabas because of the way it's written. And the reason that's important is because of the strictness of it, is the directness of it, I guess you would say. But what I want to get out of to this morning is I want us to look at one word here, and it's the earnest. Earnest is to show sincere and intense conviction about something. But what is he saying that we should look earnestly to? And he said here in chapter 2, he says to look about what was taught of you, what was shown from Christ, Son of Man. But not only that, but what the apostles saw, or showed, actually. So in a sense, it's the word, because that's what we got from. We got all the letters from the apostles and from the disciples and all that stuff. So he's telling us to look at where it all started. And we always have this thing, it begins at the cross. And of course, today being our day of communion, we realize that that's where everything that we have started there.
Amen.
And then the resurrection is what we celebrate. But what I want to get to is what is it? What is he trying to tell us here? So if we look back at chapter 1, it gives us kind of a glimpse at what he's trying to say. So verse 1 of Hebrews, he says, "God, who at sundry times and in diverse manners spoke in the time past unto the fathers by the prophets, had he this last day spoken unto us by his Son, Jesus, whom he hath appointed there of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. And then we jump down to verse 9, and he says, Thou hast loved righteousness and hated iniquity, therefore God, even thy God, hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy fellows. And the Lord in the beginning hast laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the works of thy hands. And he jumped to 14, he says, Art they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister from them who shall be heirs of salvation? So what I get, and what I think the Lord's trying to show us is everything began with God. Of course, we know He's created. But what does He say? He says the Word was from the beginning. So with everything that we have, to the core of us, to everything is the Word. And I really, like I said, I've battled all week on what to minister to, and I had something, and it just, like I said, it just didn't feel right. And so this morning, y'all kind of bear with me because I kind of did this on the whim, and just, I'm trying to understand what God's wanting us to see. I know what He wants us to see is that everything boils down to the Word. If anything happens in your life, and I don't care if you stump your toe, you can find it in the Word, because He does. He says that if you hit your foot against the rocks, He'll be there for you. Remember last week we read that about the devil even tempted Jesus, said the angels are about you. He's concerned about you stumping your toe. But what I'm trying to get to is everything that we think about, the Word is alive. It truly is. And if we can get to that point of understanding that, and I know every other religion and denomination and everything you can think of has some way, form of some written thing. But what I'm trying to say is that it's truth in it. And the reason that I believe this, and not knocking scholars or theologians or none of that stuff, because without them we wouldn't have what we have. But sometimes we get so educated in something that we forget the truth of it. And we study so much on that is it written correctly, is the translations and all this stuff. But what we forget is that it was a letter written from one person to another person, or from one person to a church, just like Hebrews. Nobody really knows who wrote Hebrews. They speculate because of the way it was written. But the whole purpose of the letter, we know it was written to the Jews. It was to encourage them that Jesus was who He said He was. The Word was what it said it was. The apostles saw what they saw. Paul saw what he saw. And that's what he's trying to tell us, is that, hey, I wrote this for a purpose. We read Revelations. It was written for a reason. We read 1 Timothy. It was written to Timothy because he was a young minister, and he was wanting to, he was like, what use is there? And there's all this chaos around us. What use is it? Paul writes him a letter and says, hey, young man, it's okay. I'm sitting in a prison, but it's okay. And so everything, I've heard everything from, the Bible is a guideline. It's this and it's that. And the best thing that I've ever heard of was, I heard a guy say it's like a recipe. It's ingredients. And when you get those ingredients right, then it's, God, there's no telling how it tastes. And I don't know if y'all remember, I did that sermon a while back with the muffins, with one cooked with salt and one cooked with sugar, the difference in them. And that's what he's telling us. And I really believe that in Hebrews he's telling us this. He's saying that if all else fails, go back to the beginning. Go back to the Word. God, who also 3 times in diverse manners spoke in times past unto the fathers through prophets. But He speaks to us through the Word. And so with all the struggles, in the Living Bible it says, so we must listen very carefully to the truths we have heard, or we may drift from them. And the Revised Standard says something similar, and it says, therefore we must pay closer attention to what we have heard, lest we drift away from it. When I think about that, I think, that's so true. It's because when we start getting things in our lives, and I know we all go through things. We battle things. One day we're good, one day we ain't. 1 month we're good, 1 year, we get 5 years, 6 years, everything's just smoothing out along, and boom, something happens. One day, something happens. Sometimes you feel 5 years is just boom, you know, you got 5 years of boom, a Big Bang Theory kind of thing. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But when I think about that, I think, you know, there's so many things that happens in our lives through and through and through that we don't really look at, that is God's little way of telling us, hey, it's okay. And I don't know if I know I've shared it, but I don't know if I shared it with y'all, but I really like Our Daily Bread. It's one of my best devotionals. I read it every day. I actually have an app on my phone, and it comes up every day, and I read it every day. And the story behind that is, I don't know if I ever shared it with you, I used to exercise. I used to run and walk and stuff. I went for a walk one day, and I was having a bad day. I was just one of them days, just life just wasn't right. And I'm walking along, and I see this little pamphlet on the ground, and it says Our Daily Bread, and it's a little paperback deal. And so I reached down and picked it up, and it's a little, I think it's a 10-day devotional or something of Our Daily Breads, and I start reading it. And man, some of the stuff in there just hit. I mean, it was just like, oh God, and you're talking to me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was all dirty, and I still have it, and so after that, I just tried to start reading Our Daily Bread every day because it was just so encouraging to me. And I thought to myself that, man, it was that simple. Mm-hmm. I mean, not all the things, oh, it's coincidence, oh, somebody threw it out the window, you know, or whatever. I don't care what you want to say it was. It was there the day I needed it.
Yes.
And no matter what, it was there. And so I want to read a little story, and it's one story from Our Daily Bread. And it was written in Our Daily Bread on April 16, 2001 by Henry Bosch. And it's called Ripples on a Pond. It says, a young boy made a toy boat, and then he went to sell it on a pond. And while he was playing with it along the water's edge, the boat floated out beyond his reach. In his distress, he asked an older boy to help him. Without saying a word, the older child picked up some rocks, some stones, and started throwing them toward the boat. The little boy became upset. What? He thought, why are you throwing the rocks? He said, turned for help was being mean. Soon he noticed that instead of hitting the boat, each stone was directly beyond the boat, making a small little ripple that moved the vessel a little nearer to the shore. Every throw, every stone hit, toy went a little closer, and eventually the boat made it back to his little son's boy's hand. I read that again this morning, and it made me almost tear up. I thought, you know, that is so true. First, the little boy turned to the older boy and thought he was being mean to him, that he's throwing rocks at his little boat. You ever feel like that sometimes? It's like, God, what did I do? We automatically start blaming ourselves. We start thinking, God, or we're thinking, some people can even get to the point of where they don't like God no more. They're like, oh God, if you're that kind of God, I don't want you. And that's probably what the little kid was thinking, is, hey, you're going to throw rocks and crash my boat, I don't want you to help me. Don't help me no more. You know, we feel like that sometimes. We get to that point, we're like, oh God, don't help me no more. If it's going to be like this, don't help me no more. But then we see the little ripples in the water, and it starts floating back to us, and we kind of see a glimpse of it. And then it floats a little more, and then it floats back, and then it floats a little more, and it floats back. It made me really think to this morning. It made me think, God, the little ripples in the water. And we get so distraught and focused on the little boat or the little guy throwing rocks at the little boat, then we see what's really truly happening. And in our lives, we get so mixed up in it, and we get so engulfed in what's going on that we forget that God's always there. He is always there. And if He's not there, He has His angels about us. We read that last week, how He has His angels engulfs us. He stands behind us. He stands beside us. He walks in front of us. He stops the car that almost hits you. He does all these little things, or throws a little pamphlet on the floor so I can see it. And He tells us, It's okay. Like Sister Laura told me yesterday, just be still. Sometimes just be still. And God, that's the hardest thing in the world, especially when you're happy. You know? You got that little mind going on, 100 miles an hour, and you're like, be still. What in the world does that mean? Be still. Huh? Okay, I'll be still. But man, you're upgrading, you know? And you're thinking, okay, God, but then we get so mixed up we can't see it. And I love this little story. Like I said, I ran across it years ago, but I just love it. I just think it's so much me. I'm that little boy, and I'm turning around and I'm saying, what in the world are you doing? And then all of a sudden, you turn back and the boat's right there, and you're like, well, how in the world did that happen? Because we get engulfed in it. We get angered in it. We forget that He's God. From the beginning, He spoke it. It became. And even if you don't believe in the creation, which we all do, but if you don't, it's still, there's something. There's something there. There's something alive in us. And like I said, God just really touched me this morning because I understood what He's trying to say. And we know that, like I said, like the song says, and that's why I wanted to play the song, because sometimes most people minister this Hebrews and other things about sin and how we can't let things out of our lives, and they cause us to make mistakes, and we do this, and I admit that sometimes the first time when something happens to me, that's the first thing I say, God, what did I do wrong? And I made a joke about that to my wife the other day. I said, man, I don't even know what I sinned. I guess I messed up somewhere, But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes we just got a little offshore, a little farther away from God's hands, which is, in a sense, sin. It's separation from God. But it might be just that we didn't get in the Word that day, or we worried more about the boat than we did about what else, And that's what God's trying to show me, and He's trying to show us, is that sometimes we get so engulfed that we forget that He is there, that He is causing a little ripple to bring it back to us. And I just, like I said, I just got so mixed up. But yesterday, I shared a video with them about Jeff Foxworthy, and I shared it a while back, I believe, and it really touched me again yesterday. I thought about it all the way home, and it was about the Bible, and it made me really think of how alive it is. And I won't get into the whole deal, but he tells a story about how he teaches at a mission, and he was doing this deal talking about how important the Bible was. And one guy said that it wasn't nothing, it's just a book. And this one guy says, no, it's alive. So he takes it and goes and throws it in the trash. The guy's like, crap, you can't throw that in the trash. It's the Bible. He goes, well, if it's just a book, it doesn't matter. But he was like, no, it's alive. So he tells the story of this young man that gets this money and, of course, blows it all away. Like I said, I ain't going to go through the whole deal, but he blows all his money. And he goes from motel to motel, motel. The only thing that he had from his mother's passing, which is where he got the money, was this little Bible that had his child. And he had it in a backpack. And he went from hotel to hotel, partying and doing all the stuff he did. And of course, the money runs out, all the women run out, drugs run out, and here he is addicted to, crack, and he's homeless, and he ain't got nothing at all from what he did. So anyway, he make a long story short, he gets a job working. This guy hires him as one of them guys standing on the corner, will work for food kind of things, and he goes and works for him, and then a few days later, the guy comes back and says, hey, I got another job for you, and he sees this other guy with him and says, hey, what's your grade? Anyway, they go clear out this deal. It was 100 miles away, a year and a half later. He'd been homeless for a year and a half, been on drugs. Year and a half, goes to this building that this guy bought 100 miles away from where he was at. So they're cleaning and they're getting everything cleaned up, and he goes up there, they get finished, goes up there, and this guy that's helping him has a pile of stuff piled up that he's going to save, that he can sell, get rid of. So the guy's telling the story about it, goes on there, he starts looking through some of the stuff, and he reaches down, there's a book. Picks up this book, and it's his Bible that his mama gave him. Has a little love letter in it from his mama. A year and a half later, 100 miles away, on a chance deal that he gets selected to clean the building, fell on his knees, and he's been clean ever since.
Amen.
Helps in the missions. But it really made me think. We serve a God that big.
Amen.
That big. And we get rippled at little things.
Yes. Amen.
I get angry sometimes at some of the stupidest things because I don't realize where it comes from. It all begins and ends there because it's alive. I have one at home that I've had for over 20 years, my Bible, and when I open it, the pages are separated. My wife has a Bible that she's had since she was a kid. Of course, the pig got into it. We don't want to go there because she get mad at me. But what I'm saying is, it's a part of you. It is. And when I saw that again yesterday, I shared it with them. It really made me think a lot about my life and the ripples. It made me remind me of this story, and everything just falling into place. And I just think, man, look, where are we? What are we doing? And it's hard, man. I'm not saying that I ain't, dude. It's tough. I mean, it really is. When you know that you know God spoke to you, or gave you a feeling, or gave you something, and all of a sudden you go and it's like, well, God, that ain't what this is supposed to be, buddy. I mean, or did I go to the wrong address or what? But then all of a sudden, we see the little rocks being thrown, and the little ripples, and the little boat starts coming back to us, and we start saying, okay, God, now I see. Sometimes those little ripples take a long time. That boat drifted out a little bit too far. And like I say, most of the people that minister this talk about sin, and we talk about, like I said, separation. But sometimes we can let our friends, our families, we get adrift from them too. We start letting things get in the way, time get in the way of our family. We start letting things get in the way of the church. And I've heard 1,000 people tell me, oh, you don't have to go to church to be saved. No, you sure don't. But I tell you what, it makes you feel a heck of a lot better.
Yes, that's right.
I'd much rather be in here talking to people that believe the same way I believe, feel the same way that I feel, going through the same things that I go through, than I'd rather be out there to someone that thinks, well, God's not real. And that's the truth. Because when you're trying to explain to someone about them little ripples or about that separation or your boat drifting away and they have no idea what you're talking about. They might have gone through it. They might have been an alcoholic or had anger issues or lost everything they owned, but they didn't turn to the man or the God that we turn to, so they don't really understand. They're like, oh yeah, it'll be okay. Just wait 5-10 years, it'll be okay, But what I'm saying is that no matter what we go through, whatever it is, however far our boat drifts away, this is the stone. This is the stone that's being thrown, that causes the ripples. Because he tells us the word, it's from the beginning. It was given before by the prophets. It was fulfilled by Christ. It is given to us. Now I know some people don't believe in miracles, people don't believe in healings, people don't believe that you can go to the hospital. I know there's all different denominations, and we can sit here and argue about who's right and who's wrong. All I know is it's in here. And I know that Paul wrote a letter about how Luke wrote about Paul being bit by a snake, and he lived. And how he got beat, and how Peter tormented, and how all these others, and they wrote letters to other Christians saying, hey, it's going to be okay. And like I said, Timothy was so discouraged, and he's like, God, wow, I got to deal with these people again. And Paul goes, oh, it's okay, man. If you want to deal with people, you ought to talk to Corinthians. Them people are crazy. And I've been dealing with them forever. So he wrote a letter about that. So when you go to a church and everybody's nuts, and you're like, hey, man, they got 2 or 3 girlfriends coming together, And you just read Corinthians and he says, hey, this is what you do. You know? And that's what I'm saying. It's alive.
Amen.
It's not just a book. Because just like Jeff said, Jeff Foxworth said, if it's not, just throw it in the trash. But it's truth to it. And that's what God's trying to tell. That's what he told me. And I just want to share with y'all because it is. If you need something, it's in here. Now you might have to Google it to find out where it is in here, but it's in here. But don't let all the troubles, all the things that get us wrapped up, don't let them get you from being separated from this, or being separated from your family or your church. Go to the people that you know can help you. Because if we don't, and just like he says, we just go back to what it is. And I want to close with this, and I'm going to read a little story. Well, it ain't a story, it's a scripture, but it's another little storm. Y'all, everybody knows it. It's famous. And it's I'm going to read the one out of Matthew, chapter 8. I'm going to start reading at verse 23. It says, and when he was entered into a ship, speaking of Jesus, his disciples followed him. And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And he said unto them, why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? You know, that's so amazing, because all that happened after he cleansed the lepers. He even healed Peter's mother-in-law. He did all these great things. And then they get on the sea and they scared up some waves. They're going to wake him up. And it really made me think again this morning as I thought, God, that is so me. That's so me. I see all these great things and I hear all these things and I'm like, oh yeah, man, my God's an awesome God. And then I get in my little boat and the water starts splashing and I'm like, where are you, God? Wake up! Wake up! And he's like, what are you scared for? And it's so simple. It's right there. You know, like I said, I just, you know, I go through sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I think to myself, I said, God, why can't I believe what I preach? You know, I tell all these people that everything's going to be okay. Just, oh, it's all right. You know, yeah, we going to live this happy life. And now I got the door, I'm like, oh, I got to go back out here again today. But what I'm saying is that we have to get it to where it is the truth to us, that it is alive, and that we know. And I'm not saying we ain't going to have to wake up one morning and think, oh, God, not again. But we're also going to say, oh, yeah, today's the day He could deliver us. Today we could see that miracle.
Yes.
But if we give up hope and we forget where it all come from, if we forget, like He said from the beginning, if we forget where it all started, because really if you read the Old Testament, if you read things, it all is talking about Jesus. When you talk about David, you're talking about Jesus. Because the lineage came from him. You talk about Jacob, Isaac, Abraham. It's all there. It all leads to the same place that we are all come. We all come to the cross. Everything in Isaiah speaks of it. The Psalms speak of it. David wrote about it. The sons of Koran, the musicians of the great feast, they wrote about it. And we get a chance to be part of it. And I'm one of them kind, and people may think I'm crazy, but I'm one of them kind. And like I say, I'm not no great theologian or scholar, but I know one thing. And if He did it for Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, then He'll do it for me.
Amen.
Because He said that I am the God of Jacob, Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. I am that I am. If he did it for Paul, now of course we don't want the other stuff he did for Paul, but if he did the good stuff for Paul, he can do that for me too. Of course, he could do the bad things too. So what I'm saying is that if we can get to the point of understanding that it's there, like I said, it's in there. Whatever you go through, adultery, murder, fornication, theft, it's in there. Your brother cheating on you, stealing all you had. It's in there. But then, if you read the rest of that story, when they met in the middle, he thought he was going to kill him, and he hugs him, that's in there too. So you have to see that part of it too. And it all leads up to Jesus. It all leads, because see, if Esau wanted to help Jacob, where would he have been? If he had killed him, where would he have been? So it all goes together. What I'm trying to say is that when it really touched me is that I serve a living God.
Yes, we do.
No matter what I think, my little pea brain thinks, He is much bigger than anything that I can see, that I can imagine, whatever. Because see, what we do is we put Him at our size. We make Him who we think He is.
Come on.
And we can't do that, because then He becomes normal to us. I mean, He becomes weak and everything. But when we see who He truly is, then we know. And like I said, and I want to close, like I said, I am going to close. I'm going to close with 27 one more time. Verse 27, and it says, "But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?"
Amen.
So what manner of man do we serve? I don't serve no ordinary man. I serve a man that can stop the wind.
Amen.
So when I'm going through that storm, He's in the middle of it. Going through that doubt, He's in the middle of it. When I'm sitting on the porch crying, He's in the middle of it. When I'm thinking, one more day, God, He's in the middle of it. When I look back and think, man, why are you throwing the rocks at my boat? He's in the middle of it. And like I said, I'm going to close with that. And if you have any prayer requests, if you have anything on your heart today, come, because God's telling us it's time.
Amen.